The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke.
Glory to you, O Lord.
When some were speaking about the temple, how it was adorned with beautiful stones and gifts dedicated to God, Jesus said, "As for these things that you see, the day will come when not one stone will be left upon another. All will be thrown down." They asked him, "Teacher, when will this be, and what will be the sign that this is about to take place?" Jesus said, "Beware that you're not led astray. For many will come in my name and say, 'I am he,' and 'the time is near.' Do not go after them. When you hear of wars and insurrections, do not be terrified, for these things must take place first, but the end will not follow immediately." Then Jesus said to them, "Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be great earthquakes, and in various places famines and plagues, and there will be dreadful portents and great signs from heaven. But before all this occurs, they will arrest you and persecute you. They will hand you over to the synagogues and prisons, and you will be brought before kings and governors because of my name. This will give you an opportunity to testify. So make up your minds not to prepare your defense in advance, for I will give you words and a wisdom that none of your opponents will be able to withstand or contradict. You will be betrayed even by parents and siblings and relatives and friends, and they will put some of you to death. You will be hated by all because of my name, but not a hair on your head will perish. Your endurance will gain you your souls." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. Experts point out that if you really want the congregation to listen very closely to you and rapt attention, you should talk about the end times, the end of the world, or what they call teleology. We'll see if that's true. Because the readings today, if you listen very closely, really zoom in on the end times. Malachi, the last book of the Hebrew Scriptures, or the Old Testament, a prophet who prophesied 400 years before Jesus, gives us a rather graphic picture of the end times, where everything, especially the evil individuals who are unfaithful, are going to be wiped out. Everything is going to be wiped out by fire. Nothing left except stubble. And we know, at least from Scripture, that usually hell is somehow pictured by fire. Although, if you read Dante's Inferno, you know that also hell there is pictured by ice. In other words, individuals are going to be frozen in their sins. But the usual picture is fire. And it reminds me so much of this one place where the parish had its church right next to a fire department. And this pastor got up one Sunday and he was giving one of these fire and brimstone homilies. And it was so graphic that the firemen heard it over there and thought there was a fire right in the church. So they brought all their equipment over to extinguish this fire. Jean-Paul Sartre, French philosopher, said, hell is other people. Hell is other people. And when you listen very closely to Paul realized that there were individuals at his time, Thessalonians, who thought that Christ would come. So, and when they were praying for that, in fact, that he would come so that they wouldn't have to die. And then the Lord could just take them. And that's why, you notice what he says, what you're doing is you're spending your time in idling. You're spending your time in being a busybody. And by a busybody, he means gossiping. And so he says, get to work. Do something. We know the expression that idleness is what? I can't hear you. The devil's workplace, right? And as a result of that, he was saying, if you don't work, you're not going to eat. Don't spend your time doing that. And then Jesus gives us an even more graphic picture of the apocalyptic times, because he says there are going to be wars, there are going to be famines, there are going to be earthquakes, all those kinds of things that are going to happen. So you don't know when it's going to happen, though, when the end is going to come. Because only the Father is going to know that. And even Jesus, in his human nature, did not know when the end of the world was going to come. But what he's trying to get across to us is, be prepared. And we know that the end of the world has been predicted many times. It was predicted in the year 1000, it was predicted in the year 2000, and it's been predicted again and again and again, and we're still here, folks. But what he was trying to get across was the fact that we don't know when it is coming. And I believe, I might be wrong, the end times, that's why you have so many of these books. Left Behind is a good example of it. Sold millions and millions of copies of it concerning the end times. The Last Man on the Planet Earth by Halsey sold millions and millions of copies also. But the main point that Jesus was trying to get across to us is this: are you ready to meet the Lord at any time? And that's a very, very important question. In fact, there are many saints that were asked that question. What would you do if you were told that you're going to die today? What would you do? Good question. And most of these saints said, I would do exactly what I'm doing now. Because they were ready. They were ready to accept the Lord. But I have to ask myself that question over and over again. What would I do? Am I ready? And I think that's why it's so important for us, like St. Francis Xavier said, live each day as if it were your last day. Wow. If every one of us did that, the impact that it could have. Because so often we have our want list, or also our list of things that we have to do. And you ask yourself this in all sincerity, is that list getting shorter or longer? And does that list also include that I need maybe to forgive someone or visit someone in a nursing home or reach out to the poor, the hungry, the lonely, the outcasts of our society, as Pope Francis is encouraging us to do? I find this always so fascinating. When people go into surgery, one of the things that they will ordinarily do is go to the sacrament of reconciliation. I say to myself, why is that? Because there's always that possibility that they might die on that operating table. But if we had that kind of an approach to our lives, as saying that's what has to motivate us, and not to simply say, well, I don't have any sins, Father. Because every encounter with Christ in this beautiful sacrament gives us the grace and the help and to be able to reach out to the poor, the hungry, the lonely. It does. It's a marvelous sacrament. Very uplifting. I find that so often with individuals. I just happened to come in contact with someone recently, and they said, well, Father, I just don't like this idea of going face to face. And I say to them, well, I accept that fact. I mean, that's why in most places you have the ability to be able to go in some other way. But what I try to point out to them is, I find this far more personal, and also you are given the opportunity then to impose hands, the power of touch. And look at the Gospels and see Jesus in action and see how often Jesus touched people and was touched by others. Powerful. Very powerful. So there is an opportunity for us to prepare ourselves. But the basic question still is, with regard to Jesus saying, and that's why they asked him that, when is this going to happen? And it's a basic question that we have to ask ourselves too. But the more basic question is this: are we ready to meet the Lord today? Are we? Yes. Not too many. We'll try it again. Are you ready to meet the Lord today? Yes. That's much better.